Actually, I think it's better being older and having a kid. I appreciate it more. Yeah. Babies are awesome.
They are pretty awesome.
They're awesome. Yeah. I mean, also, I've spent a lot of time on AI and neural nets, and so you can sort of see the kind of the brain develop, which is, an AI neural net is trying to simulate what a brain does, basically, and you can sort of see it learning very quickly. I think possessions kind of weigh you down. They're kind of an attack vector. He'll say, "Hey, billionaire, you got all this stuff." Like, well, now I don't have stuff. Now what are you going to do?
Attack vector meaning like people target it.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
Like I have a bunch of houses, but I don't spend a lot of time in most of them, and that doesn't seem like a good use of assets. Like somebody could probably be enjoying those houses and get better use of them than me. I started having like some privacy issues where like people would, like lots of people just like come to my house and, start climbing over the walls and stuff. So like, man, for sure in recent years, billionaire has become a pejorative, like it's a pejorative. So it's like that's a bad thing. Which I think doesn't make a lot of sense in most cases. If you basically organized a company, how does this wealth arise? It's if you organize people in a better way to produce products and services that are better than what existed before, and you have some ownership in that company, then that essentially gives you the right to allocate more capital. So there's a conflation of consumption and capital allocation. I do think in the United States especially, there's an overallocation of talent in finance and law. Basically, too many smart people go into finance and law. This is both a compliment and a criticism. We should have, I think, fewer people doing law and fewer people doing finance and more people making stuff. And manufacturing used to be highly valued in the United States, and these days it's not. It's often looked down upon, which I think is wrong. Does it really make sense for me to spend time designing and building a house, and I'd be real, get OCD on the little details and the design, or should I be allocating that time to getting us to Mars? I should probably do the latter. So, what's more important, Mars or a house? I like Mars. Okay, that it could, in principle, fix almost anything that is wrong with the brain, and it could restore limb functionality. So if you've got interface into the motor cortex and then an implant that's that's like a microcontroller in your muscle groups, you could then create a neural shunt that restores somebody who's a quadriplegic to full functionality. Like they can walk around, be normal.
Whoa.
We're already partly a cyborg or an AI symbiote, essentially. It's just that the data rate to the electronics is slow, especially output. Like you're just going with your thumbs. What's your data rate? Maybe optimistically 100 bits per second. That's being generous. And now the computer can communicate at 100 terabits. I mean, ultimately, if you want to go with full AI symbiosis, you'll probably want to do something like that. I'm not sure what would happen to language. But you could probably, in a situation like this, you would be able to it would be kind of like the Matrix. You want to speak a different language, no problem.
Right.
Just wire it, or just download the program. But yeah, I mean, you could save state and restore that state into a biological being if you wanted to in the future. In principle, there's nothing from a physics standpoint that prevents us recall everything. Just like it's a movie, including the entire sensory experience,
emotions, everything,
and play it back. Right now, here's the thing: you are a brain in a vat. Then that vat is your skull. Yes. And everything you see, feel, hear, everything, all your senses are electrical signals. Everything. So you can think of this as being the computer, the AI is like a third layer, a tertiary layer. So that is that could be symbiotic with the cortex. It would be much smarter than the cortex, but you'd essentially have 3 layers, and you actually have that right now. Your phone is capable of things, and your computer is capable of things that your brain is definitely not. Storing terabytes of information perfectly, doing incredible calculations that we couldn't even come close to doing. You have that with your computer. It's just like I said, the data rate is slow. The connection is weak. And here's another sort of interesting idea, which is, because you say, like, where did consciousness arise? Well, assuming you believe the belief in physics, which appears to be true, then the universe started off as basically quarks and leptons, and it quickly became hydrogen and helium, lithium, like basically elements of the periodic table. But it was like mostly hydrogen, basically. And then over a long period of time, 13.8 billion years later, that hydrogen became sentient. Well, I hope consciousness propagates into the future and gets more sophisticated and complex, and that it understands the questions to ask about the universe. At the sort of like the meme sphere, there's not enough isolation between countries or regions. It's like if there's a mind virus, that mind virus can infect too much of the world. I actually sort of sympathize with the anti-globalization people, because it's like, man, we don't ever want everywhere to be the same, for sure, and then we need some kind of like mind viral immunity.
What are we going to be?
Like when?
25 years from now, what are we going to be?
Well, assuming civilization is still around. It's looking fragile right now. I think the mortality rate is much less than what say the World Health Organization said it was. It's very much less. It's like probably at least an order of magnitude less. You can look at the mortality statistics, by age and whether they have comorbidities. Like, do they have like basically existing conditions? If you're below 60 and have no serious health issues, the probability of death is extremely low. It's not 0, but it's extremely low. Most of the hospitals in the United States right now are half empty. In some cases, they're at 30% capacity. Objectively, the mortality is much lower. Like at least a factor of 10, maybe a factor of 50 lower than initially thought. So let's clear up the data. There will be some amount of silver lining here, no matter what. Hopefully, it can be more of a silver lining than less.
Yeah.
It's like kind of like a practice run for something that had a potentially that might in the future have a serious, like a really high mortality rate. And we kind of got to go through this without it being something that kills, vast numbers of young, healthy people.
Yeah.
In general, I think that's like we should be concerned about anything that's a massive infringement on our civil liberties.
Yes.
So it's like you got to put a lot of weight on that. A lot of people died to, win independence for the country and fight for the democracy that we have, and we should treasure that and not give up our liberties too easily. I think I think we probably did that, actually. Fundamentally, a violation of the Constitution.
Yes.
Freedom of assembly, and these would definitely not stand up. If the Supreme Court here, it's obviously complete violation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where do civil liberties fit in this picture?
Yeah.
And what can the government make you do? What can they make you not do? And what's okay?
Right.
Yeah, you can't take it personally. A lot of these people don't actually know you.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's like if you're fighting a war, and there's like some opposing soldier that shoots at you. It's not like they hate you. They don't even know you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just think of it like that. Like they're firing bullets, whatever. But they don't know you, so don't take it personally. What do you think's the best source of just like information out there? Like
That's a good question.
Let's say you're just like average citizen trying to just get the facts, figure out what's going on, how to live your life, and just looking for what's going on in the world. That it's hard to find something that isn't that's good.
Yeah.
That not trying to push some partisan angle, not trying to not sort of doing sloppy reporting and just aiming for the most number of clicks and trying to maximize ad dollars and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You're just trying to figure out what's going on. It's like I'm hard pressed to where do you go? Yeah, I think like maybe just trying to find individual reporters that you think are good and
Yes.
kind of following them as opposed to the publication. There have to be reasons that you get up in the morning and you want to live. Like, why do you want to live? What's the point? What inspires you? What do you love about the future? And if we're not out there, if the future does not include being out there among the stars and being a multi-planet species, I find that it's incredibly depressing if that's not the future that we're going to have. I'm not trying to be anyone's savior. That is not the... I'm just trying to think about the future and not be sad.